we're ready. All right. Welcome to the December council meeting for the Aldan Borough Council. Pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Mayor Miniacci,
Zoom.
President Procopio,
Here.
Councilman Borders,
Here.
Councilman Connolly,
Here.
Councilwoman Corrigan here, Councilwoman Lambert here, Councilman Maiden,
Here.
Councilwoman McKernan here.
All present and accounted for. Do we have any awards, presentations, or appointments this meeting? None? No. Okay. The minutes from the November meeting, do I have a motion to approve and accept the minutes of the previous council meeting as presented by the Borough Secretary?
I'll make that motion, Mr. President.
Mr. Conley, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Maiden. All those in favor?
All right.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Receipt of communications, Madam Secretary, do you have anything that's come in?
Okay.
I will mention that there have been two sets of emails, and both of those individuals happen to be in the audience tonight over the last month. One of them is from Mr. Maxwell. I won't even try the last name. From Priscilla Payne, who was questioning things about the code enforcement officers and his attempt to get a permit for a shed. And I believe we have answered his question to his satisfaction. He did not ask to speak tonight. The other communication that has come in is from Mr. James of, are you official address Albert or Magnolia?
Magnolia.
You go Magnolia and Albert with a series of questions. We've answered some, but not all. And he's here tonight. So that's the communications that I have received, and I'll let Mr. James in the next segment bring up those that we haven't yet sufficiently answered. It dealt with parking and traffic and plastic recycling and reducing waste. And I hope I haven't missed anything that was in your communication. And anybody else get communications this month? Seeing none, public comment, Mr. James?
Yes, I'm allowed to talk about what I want to talk about.
Go ahead.
Thank you, President. Thank you. I apologize, I haven't actually been in the meeting recently. Going on, kind of in education, something like that. But Mr. President, thank you very much for the answers that so far provided. It's good. Welcome to hear that. I wanted just to add, really, there's a lot of opportunity for I could look at outside of the box. Now, some of it is around recycling. I know we've spoken about that before down on that aspect of it, but there are opportunities you can reduce the waste further that goes into landfill by looking at how we recycle, how people do it. But that could all be mulched and put back into the ground. None of that has to go into the general trash. It's actually good for the ground. All of these. Now, it's a process that we need to sort of determine how that's done. Secondly, is composters. Composters are quite big in Europe, where you compost all your waste you have when you have hot from meat products. Things like that. You can actually make good compost that then turns into leaf mold, mixed with leaf mold, and help the gardens and everything else. Again, that's the way of cutting down. And they look at compost and think, well, that's even hopefully, but it's something I think that is I'd like to participate in to help deliver that message across the borough, because I think that would be a golden opportunity. Example, or I'm a firm believer by leading example, thinking outside the box, and being proactive. Yeah. So there are so many questions. Do you want me to read those questions then, or do you want to
The ones that we haven't answered, if you want to bring them up, yes.
All right, okay. So if my question is around is, if any of the borough residents wanted to actively do when COVID is over, go around the door to door knocking and seek opinions or seek signatures, what is that process? Do we need a permit for that? Visible, and what the limitations are.
Mr. White, do you have an answer for that question? Or?
That would be a solicitor would answer that.
Okay. Okay. I know we have a permitting process for commercial, correct?
It's not a commercial.
No.
It's not a commercial issue, it's a residential issue.
So you really can't.
Our solicitor will review and we'll get back to you.
Yeah, don't want to go outside the law and stay within the law.
Sure.
And understand what the limitations of that are. So that's something, yeah, take that offline, Nicky. And then that's still wants to understand really, I'm still not clear on this, how the board manages the information placed on records. So what contained within people's files, how is it stored, how is it managed, and what actions. That's been under the what we call standing data protection. What is those laws? How is it applied in the borough?
It is locked in a file, in one of our back rooms.
Right.
Somebody put the right to know request on your address. They have what's in there.
So anyone can have anything that has
Public knowledge.
Okay. Well, thank you. Right. Okay. As long as it's secured and it doesn't get into the wrong hands.
Meaning, right, criminal ask for a right to know on your property and pays me $15, I'm gonna give them the information.
Okay.
If there's a report. Doesn't matter what I think, you put the law.
Right to know law is pretty clear that we don't look at why somebody's asking. Publicly available, it should be produced.
Mr. White, I think that's several emails and stuff to understanding that the video was work. We have to have it.
I absolutely do have that. Are we talking about your street?
The street on Magnolia.
When you moved in, when you said that they raised it to the curb, is that what we're talking about?
When we surfaced it, now the curve is lower, and you said you were looking at video.
Sure. So are you saying now that they didn't take 2 inches off and they put more on?
If you look at it, it's more. Now, the reason to say that, tell that, accordingly. So, I mean, we're going to look at that, we probably had a lot of fight.
Okay, so let me just tell you how mistaken you are. I don't know if you're aware or not, but Google Maps goes back pretty far. I pulled up Google Maps in November of 2007 of your house.
Do you mean that details of
I'm gonna actually give you a copy to look at. There was roughly, you had about a ½ inch of curb line show. When did you move in?
2006.
Okay, so when you moved in 2007, there's about an inch, ½ inch. When they did the street in 2018, may have gotten a little extra. Like, look at these, you're welcome.
Yes, thank you, appreciate that. Thank you. And then,
So they took out, they put back whatever they took out.
that's all I'm going to say. Thank you for appreciating that. So my next question is around understanding how far that Zoom is goes as a register. How many people actually do the database of the Aldan Borough website to view the minutes of the meeting? How many people look at that? How far does
Well, that's up to them if you want to read it.
but your website should tell you how many people look at it. Look at the website.
You mean have a counter on there?
How many people look at it?
Well, I don't think it has one on there.
All websites have that.
Although they don't all, we don't have it.
So the reason why I ask this question is, well, the information I'm getting back to me is that not all the residents know what goes on. And that might be part of their fault.
Let me stop you right there.
Hang on, Mr. White.
Okay, go ahead.
Finish. So I want to just ask that question. What level of information are we raising out there? Now, how is the information being got to the residents? We do the Zoom, we have the website. But what additional methods are used to raise awareness?
We sent a flyer out to every household, letting them know all the meetings and the Zoom information. Should we knock on the doors and tell them about it? You volunteer?
It's what we're going to find out. When COVID is over, that's what my intention is. Knock on the doors residents, why are you doing that? And I talked to residents, my area, they were about that. Now, granted, you've got the website, but we need to register in it. One flyer, okay, 2 flyers, but we need to make sure the community get it. Now, how that's done, another story, but going down the line, next year, hope that they'll come, then we can look at it more deeply. There was a black box, I call it a black box, I don't know what it's called. So, did we get any data on that?
We mentioned at the meeting,
Actually, I have brought that up at meetings, but you haven't been here, Bob. We plan to discuss that with you about.
before you go ahead, Mr. White, all of our meetings that are on Zoom are available online. If you go to the Borough website, you can go back and look at the meeting as well as the minutes of their, all available.
Right, before I go into it, there's lots of things I want to discuss, but I will hold this whole entire meeting up. But the proposed budget, what questions there on there, I think we're probably going to take offline. What things don't make sense why we're spending money on certain things. I don't understand it. Because ultimately it's taxpayer money. What digging needs to be done? I'm only scratching the surface of what I want to talk about. Now, I look back on opportunities that could have been had in Borough, previous the question I have now is based around the money we spend on the municipal building. Rent that, we lease it, like then, lease, we pay rent on it.
The property is leased. We built the building
Right.
and we have to pay the utility bills on it. And this building is on land that the borough owns and it's also maintained.
Now, again, this is further down the line, let's scratch what decisions have we made to make money? What we don't know yet. That's the opportunities we have. That means focus what we're trying to do also on what the things that are in 1993.
Correct. Yeah.
Has anyone ever looked at combining boroughs together, but still keeping their identity, i.e. administration to be run by one? So like Kane, Darren Hill, Clifton Heights, Aldan, one administration block.
Well, I
Maybe
I can tell you the history of why the towns are broken up in this section, because in the 1880s, the state passed a law that allowed you to have your own school if you were your own municipality. So a lot of farmers got together, instead of sending them from here on the buckboard up to Upper Darby, they could have their own school, which is why the borough was originally founded in 1893. I know there have been some discussions in the past, I don't know whether Alden's been involved, about some towns combining police departments. And of course, the state has mandated in 1950 and 1970 for school districts to combine, because Aldan Borough used to have its own school, but it was forced to merge in the 50s with all Lansdowne, and then it was forced again to merge in the 70s to become the William Penn School District. And that was mandated by state law. But there is no mandate that you have to gather municipalities. I know that we have cooperative agreements with other municipalities and for purchasing situations, that's my understanding. And we're also tied into a state program that allows us to use the, I don't know the name of it, I can't remember, but allows us to use the purchase power of the state to get good deals on purchase of police cars and other equipment. Mr. White may be able to. CoStar, right? So that means that the state has already looked at those vendors and approves them, and they'll give us a rate as if the state was actually buying the equipment.
That's a reasonable answer. But I think there's still an exploratory method that should be looked at. Say, well, can this be done? What is the cost of doing it? Is there a saving? Is there no saving? Is there an appetite on the residents? And that should then be put as a referendum to the residents of Oldham and the various other associated, like Clifton Heights, whether to see if there's any appetite for that. And now, either it will be depending on the cost of it all, but if there's an opportunity to have synergies, save money that ultimately doesn't come out of my back pocket, your back pocket, everybody else, it should be looked at.
Okay.
What reference are you really referring to? You, like, in reference, you would like us to join up with Clifton Heights or another borough to manage our own borough? Is that what you're?
No. It's a joint venture. We still remain their identity, and also have their identity, but how it's administered will be done jointly. But is that practical? Yes. Is there any money? Is there any savings to be had on it? I don't know.
Well, it's something that we could possibly look into in the future. Is there any other items that you'd like?
No,
to
I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I would like to address this last one, about the black box,
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
where you said they were flying down the street constantly. You could see it from your
Yeah.
office and okay, let me give you the numbers.
Thank you.
So you know they were there for a little while, that box. From 10/9 to 10/13, so it was there 5 days. 2,402 cars went down your street. Speed limit is posted at 25. The average speed on your street is 22. Enforceable violations, percentage-wise, 0, very low. Okay. There is no
Thank you.
speeding.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. James.
Thank you, Mr. James, by the way. On the computer in a pocket, and there are tallies for the videos that they have. The question was who the account, the videos themselves have accounts. I don't think you can do a website in terms of agenda website. Yeah, individual think the video have accounts. You're right. I mean, there's not many of them. But that's how many? 14 on average? 14. Yeah.
Not,
But
the numbers of the borough, people live here, not very many. So it's only, the numbers are drift.
Sure. But that's a resident.
I think by raising awareness of it, understanding do they people know about it and why aren't they looking at it, why aren't they participating, also needs to be established. It has to be both two sides.
Well, we also send a calendar out every year advertising all of our meetings.
Very, very good. But ultimately, then is if we're going to do this, the residents are participating, then basically we have a blank check. If we want nobody objects to anything or raises concerns, then no one's going to say anything. But ultimately, when I look at some of these, again, some of these numbers, I think, what? This is why I want to dig deeper. I'm going straight to the top of the iceberg right now.
James, for the friends and family that you might have in the borough, you speak about these meetings and promote them yourself?
I've asked a few of my residents, yeah. I've been keeping myself to stuff as a defendant.
Sure. But have they showed up to these meetings in the past? Is that?
Well, look at how many people here. Granted, we're on a COVID situation, but there should be more participation from the residents to understand why. Now, I held chairmanship for different meetings, different organisations, and one big unity. And that one of the big things we have is making sure participation.
Well, people know about it, and we'll reiterate that again next year, and if we can't force them to look at the meetings, if they don't want to.
No, you can't.
The best we can do.
The same time is that it needs to be raised away, and that's something we can do after the COVID stuff. So, President, you can take it offline or further discussion.
Sure, absolutely. Be happy to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else with public comment? All right, seeing none, reports of the borough officers, Mayor Maniaci on Zoom.
I'm on.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. First off, I'd like to thank the boosters the other night. Great tree lighting ceremony for the circumstances we're living in right now. It went off very good, even though you pulled the old Clark Griswold there, Danny boy, with the plug in there. It didn't go on it right off the bat. Very, very nice night the other night. I have a report here I'm going to read. It is from the chief. Just in real brief, we used to do this before. During the month of November, the police department handled calls including, but not limited to assaults, thefts, drug violations, disorderly conduct, traffic accidents, and so on and so on. I don't want the residents to be alarmed, but it goes on everywhere, and our police department is very, very good. And I'm just letting you know that stuff does go on out here. And this report was brought up to me by another council member, and was asked if we could start just reading off, lying or hiding. Good job. And we got crime just like everywhere else does. Even though I love to say we keep it out of here, there's crime everywhere. Also, don't forget, lock your car doors if you're leaving your Christmas presents in there right now to hide from everybody, because people are going around. And I just want to take this time to say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, everybody. We are almost, hopefully, who knows how much longer this COVID's going to go on. And just hope everybody's safe and sound. So that's all I have for tonight, and enjoy the rest of the meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. Are there any questions for the mayor? Being none, we'll move on. Borough Manager, Mr. White.
President, I have two more streets to report where residents have complained about speeding. And like I said to Mr. James, people think that they are actually speeding. You cannot tell by the naked eye. This is Rivalry Avenue, which Mr. Barber brought that last month.
So it's East Riding.
East Rivalry, okay. There were 3,448 cars traveled between 12:1 and 12:9. Speed limit is 25 posted. The average speed was actually 21. So again, there's 0 enforceable violations. The next complaint came right here on Schisler Avenue. We did this from 11:16 to 11:25. 808 vehicles. Posted speed actually says 15, but 15 is actually reserved for school zone, so it should be 25. But the average speed on the street was actually 17. So again, enforceable violation. So, if someone has a complaint about a street, we'd be glad to put this device on the street. It's just you really can't tell by the naked eye.
Now, that's just the complaint in the school right here.
Yes.
between The parking lot and.
This street here where people are flying up the street. And the fastest speed on the street, which probably looks very fast, 31, but it's not enforceable. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. White. I would just comment that we borrowed originally earlier this year a device from another Providence, but we have subsequently purchased our own. So we're able to deploy that as the residents ask, or if there's an intersection that the chief or the borough manager, someone thinks needs to be looked at. And so far, we haven't found any large violations.
They've all been 0 infractions. It's been below posted every time.
The only variation from Woodlawn, we had one at 60 miles an hour by the school zone.
Was it 61 or 51?
Something like that.
But we had one infraction out of, and that was 4,000 cars.
Very good. Thank you very much. Any questions for the borough manager?
No, I'd like to thank you for doing that. We appreciate that. A lot of work involved.
All right. Seeing none, the report of our
Yeah,
treasurer.
Real quick, that black box that we bought might be one of the best investments we've done in the last 4 or 5 years.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor. The treasurer, Ms. Rankin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm starting my report tonight with the general fund. The beginning balance of cash on hand is $655,621.22. The total receipts for the period were $58,007.36. Our expenditures were $335,545.4, leaving an ending balance of cash on hand of $378,083. Moving on to the state highway fund, the beginning balance of cash on hand was $21,450.82. The only income was 66 cents of interest at the state highway account. Our expenditures were $19,404.55, leaving an ending balance of cash on hand $2,056.28. Finally, to the sewer fund, the beginning balance of cash on hand was $357,922.96. Our receipts for this period were $10,518.40. Our expenditures were $75,781.25. Large part of that was our Del Porter bill for the fourth quarter, leaving an ending balance of cash on hand of $292,660 less. Mr. President, at this time, I would ask for council approval, to, take funds from the following, accounts. From the general fund, $335,545.64. From the state highway fund, $19,404.55. And from the sewer fund, $75,785.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to accept the treasurer's report and authorize the disbursements as listed on the bill list?
Mr. President, I make a motion to the treasurer's report and
Thank you, Vice President Lambert. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that motion, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Borders. All those in favor? Opposed? The ayes have it. Any other questions for the treasurer? Seeing none. Solicitor, Mr. Amuso.
Thank you. So I don't have any update on legal matters. The 33 East Providence, that quiet title matter is still pending. Honestly, the computer filing system for the Delaware County Court of Common Pleas is down. So that's further slowing everything. But as soon as I have an update on that, I'll let you know. But I do have, I know we talked about last few meetings, our written proposal for fees for the 2021. Go through that for everybody.
While you're doing that, I would just mention, I believe I read that the county was hit by a cybercrime and there's a ransom due. That's part of the reason why they're disputing. Yeah, but I guess.
Yes, they paid the ransom.
They did? Okay.
They paid the ransom of $500,000. They paid it in Bitcoin.
Bitcoin. That's what they want. All right, go ahead.
Okay. So first of all, I've been working now with Mr. Procopio for the last 2 weeks to resolve any confusion over our bills for this year. And so just to clear that up, we'll put a credit on the next set of bills. We give the borough about $8,308 to alleviate any kind of concern about what should have been under the retainer or what should have been. I was just confused about it and have to resolve that. So there's no issues for next year. Here's what we proposed when we're seeking reappointment in January at reorganization. So keep the hourly rate the same at $150 an hour. A slight increase in the yearly retainer to $30,000. That does two things. One, it just makes it an easy $2,500 a month. That's a very simple bill. But we're being very clear on what comes under the retainer. So first of all non-attendants, anybody from my firm needs to also preparation for any resolutions on community or appointment resolutions that falls under the retainer. Any routine questions from Mr. White or anybody on the staff about, how does this work at the meeting? We're going to do this at the meeting. Again, all the resolutions. And then important expansion is anytime we communicate with any of you, any of the elected borough council members and the mayor, of course, there's not going to be a charge. But we want you to feel like you have a question about the bill being run up for the borough. It's important for us to, it's just good to have issues out there. It would be the bill, if someone thought, I put on the ordinance that does this. What have to look into it, but then if the borough says, if we want to draft an ordinance, that also includes the planning commission members. They're not elected officials, but they might have questions about how planning works. Really don't have the borough. If there's anything with
leaves, we recoup that money for the borough, that's no time for it. Any attorney, if there's ever a situation where especially at a special meeting to talk about visiting with police or some kind of meeting that wouldn't be covered by the retainer, with regards to one attorney, not part of burial time or any kind of run of the mill, well, any run of the mill expenses we don't. And then if there's mailing fees or copying fees, or whatever. But we really enjoyed working with the borough this year, and we hope to continue to do it next year.
Is there anything else to your report?
No.
Are there any questions for the solicitor? Hearing none, thank you very much. You're sitting in for Mr. Phil tonight, and
For Gil?
Yeah.
Pleasure to fill in tonight. For the engineering report, I just wanted to mention, as you may recall, we had submitted a DCD grant for an information bed at Nolan, Alberta. It sat for a little bit, Jeff, I think you told it. We didn't hear anything until a week or so ago. We actually received emails, a couple questions they had. So I think that's a good sign that now that, it's back in the highlight again. So I'm hoping to hear something early in the year. This was a grant to do an infiltration bed project associated with our. So this would not only reduce flooding at this intersection at Mexico and Albert, but it's also address food production plan. As soon as I hear something, I'll definitely fill everyone in. As mentioned earlier, 33 East Providence Road. I talked to Phil Welsh, and he said the council did approve it last week, and that he'll reach out to us for the next step. We also submitted a PennDOT multimodal for 250 LED lights for King Street poles. This we have not heard anything, although we weren't expecting anything until early in the year, as far as 2021. And the last is our NPDES permit. We submit a yearly permit, annual report for this permit. We submitted it this year, and it's just been in the works. I've heard from other municipalities that they'll be issuing review letters coming up month or so. Each municipality, just that, agreeing that they comply. Are there any questions?
thank you very much.
I have a question on that. Just a little bit more about the strength you mentioned about I know now then what you mean by that.
It's not a trench, it's an infiltration bed, so.
It was like,
Yeah, it was a bed, it's a bed that will be comprised of perforated pipe and stone, it's underground. And it will store it at the freight front. So it will bring it underground, which is, Department of Environmental Protection considers the best matter. So it not only reduces flooding, but it's good for the environment.
Mr. James is particularly interested because he lives at that intersection, and the current bed, I know, is not sufficient to handle heavy rain. So actually, the water goes in one side of the intersection, and there's a drain on the other side. It comes out when there's too much water, which we've got a couple of downpours. So the idea of that is to make sure that the water stays underground, and I believe that was somewhere around $180,000 that we requested that work. Well, we'll have more coming up in the future. Are there any other questions for Phil? I just have two items. So that approval at 33 East Providence was for a demolition of a blighted property, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so they've approved it, but we're waiting on quiet title before we do any work. So I believe that was for about 80 grand or something like that.
It's 81,600.
And do you remember how much that PennDOT grant was for the lighting? I can't.
Yes, it was $154,791.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it very much. Hopefully we'll get that early next year. I know COVID has held us back. Any other questions for the borough engineer? Seeing none, we'll go to the reports of the boards and commission. I think the zoning board has nothing to report. Planning Commission, Mr. Cartavi is not here tonight, but there was no meeting because there was no business in front of it last night. And Mr. White, the Recreation Board?
Nothing to report, I guess, Joe, they're not doing basketball.
No,
Didn't know.
yeah, I went to a meeting, 2 weeks ago, and the Delaware County Basketball League is canceling this year due to the, circumstances of the pandemic. Hopefully, next year we can get something going as far as that, but, I'm just waiting to be in contact by Pat. But that's all I have for the rest.
You had a very good, successful soccer season outdoors, and
I did, with the
Hopefully-
circumstances, yes, outstanding. We had about 73 kids, so, and we
And
did it
hopefully-
safely.
when we get back outdoors again, you can have baseball and softball next year.
Yes,
Fingers crossed.
yes.
So I have a quick question.
Sure.
Branches that were cut down over at the field, softball field, I guess, at the classes.
Actually, I did do that. I trimmed up some branches from all the lighting systems, and I had gotten a chipper, but it went down. It actually got fixed last week, so I will be over there taking care of that.
Any other questions for the rec board? Seeing none, it seems that the Board of Health and Historical Commission did not meet and have no report. Right, is that correct? Okay, reports of the council committees, public health, Mr. Kernan.
The numbers for the month of November. 118.7. 21.92. And this has come up the last couple of months, so we are unfortunately having to suspend the recycling program at the end of the year. And so the last curbside recycling pickup is going to be September 30th. And we have some things in place. The Boy Scouts are going to be collecting aluminum the first Saturday of every month at the municipal lot from 9 to 11. And we're going to install some paper and glass like collection receptacles in the pool parking lot off of Maryland Avenue. There's going to be a letter that's going out to residents later this week or maybe early next week. It contains all this information and what's going to be happening. And it also contains a link to a survey that any residents can fill out, just kind of getting feedback about what we want the recycling program to look like in the future. Because the reason that we're having to suspend the recycling program is when we put it out for bid back in October, I think, or put it out in September, opened it in October. The bids came back about 3 times as expensive as what we're currently paying. This is not useful for us to we don't have the budget for 3 times the cost of what we were paying. But we want to talk to residents about, what they feel is paying more versus not having recycling, where the borough lands on that. So we do want to know that information from people. And so just as a formality, I want to make a motion that the Aldan Borough, that we reject the bids that we got for the 2021 recycling program.
Thank you very much. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Borders. All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you very much. Is there anything else?
I just want to let everyone know that the county is having drive-through COVID testing starting tomorrow the 10th and going through the 14th from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. in the Delaware County Community College in Media. It's a first come, first serve situation, and there's 450 tests a day. So probably earlier is better for that.
You have to have symptoms.
Yeah. Yeah, it's free, no cost, and you don't have to have yeah, it's just it's free to guest residents of Delaware County, regardless. And you must be 3 years of age or older. You're not required to show symptoms. No appointment is necessary. But again, for service, come for serve. And it's kind of related to that. Just kind of information that on November the 3rd, there were 82 COVID cases in Aldan. And then as of yesterday, September the 8th, there were 160. So that's doubling in about a month. So I encourage people to stay home, wear masks when you're outside, don't gather with other people unless it's absolutely necessary. Wear masks all the time. And that is all that I have in my report.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions for the councilwoman?
I have
the last meeting, that a letter should have been sent out prior to this meeting to give residents enough time to get that information about us, stopping the recycling program, so that they can come and give feedback if they wish. And it doesn't look like anything has been done at that.
Well, the letter was prepared. We were trying to make sure that we had all the locations set up and so that people would know where to go if they wanted to recycle aluminum, which we heard back from the scouts very late, and where we were trying to figure out where to put recycling bins so that they would not be near homes and they would not be in a location that would create a nuisance or a problem. So we didn't just want to send a letter out and let people know that, and they'll get it with at least 3 weeks or maybe more before they have to stop with the recycling. And that letter was circulated to all council people.
It was to the council, but that's for them.
Right, for your comments and additions or subtractions, and it will be sent to the printer, I guess, tomorrow, since we've done it, and, yeah.
As soon as I get it.
Okay.
Right, I'm sorry, I seem to remember, please correct me wrong there, that on the website there was mention of recycling containers at the back of the Giant on our website.
It's the same ones that are gonna be the igloos, except that we're not putting them behind the Giant. We're actually gonna put them in the parking lot of the pool.
Swim club.
No.
Swim club. Yeah.
Swim club.
Oh, those are, okay. Yeah. And I certainly welcome the news about recycling. There's a lot of good that can be done from that. And I really, despite all my moaning and groaning that I do, I think there's an opportunity here to expand the knowledge to the residents of what can be done with recycling. And I'd like to be proactive in that and help the borough.
Well, you were not here at last month's meeting, but Councilwoman Corrigan brought up the fact that she had a conversation with the manager of the Giant, and he was willing to talk to any resident about what they do to reduce their recycling, reduce their plastic and material. So if you want to go up there and speak to him, you can go and ask the manager. Because I know you've brought that up before.
Been doing that for the last 18 months. Okay.
Very good.
Reduce their plastic. There's a lot of stuff that I think, why have we got lots of croissants in heavy duty plastic that I probably put concrete in and carry it?
That's way over our head.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's above our pay
I get
grade.
that. Yeah, but that's why I think that.
As a consumer, they can't take the last time.
Well, you do. But you got to put a fresh chicken. It's in a paper bag.
I think that's at the wolf level.
Mr. Casey.
With the doubling of the coronaviruses in town in the last month, are there plans or are there any tentative plans to maybe have this meeting exclusively on Zoom?
That may indeed happen,
And I'm
depending on what the state requires. They were talking about adding additional restrictions. They have not yet been added at this time, but I know the governor today just announced that he had COVID.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, this is probably the highest it's ever been in Alden. When we were doing Zoom meetings online
Yeah,
exclusively.
well, that was early on when they mandated that you weren't supposed to have meetings in person, so.
Right. So.
We've tried to keep it down. We only have 20 people in the room tonight. I think we're allowed to have as many as 25, and anytime that there was an appointment and we had a lot of people in for police officers, that we only rotated them in to keep the number of people down.
I mean, I asked this because of you guys, you're a public servant,
Yep.
and it's really putting you at risk.
Well, don't be surprised if we go back on Zoom in
Yeah.
January.
Well, not that topic. It sounds like a lot of, and I don't know the stats, but it sounds like a lot, our whole household that drive that number. It's not individual, one per household, whole household that is impacted by it.
Yeah, but they get that circulate through the community.
Yeah.
They tell two friends, they tell two friends.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Short?
Yeah, I have a question. You mentioned about the amount of what the cases that are coming up each day. How is that information collected, and where's it coming from?
It's coming from the county, where the county level puts it out. They have a dashboard. I guess they're getting it from hospitals and other healthcare.
They collect this all in one day, and they have a little.
They have, there is a bit of a lag, because it's like, they have the hospitals report it each day to the county, and then,
But I mean, specific to all that.
You have to give the address.
Mr. President, there's actually, there's these Google like Delaware, I just did it tonight, that's why you go to like Delaware County COVID results.
Mhm.
You know how they've outsourced it to Chester County, the health department stuff? They have a map for Delaware County. It's housed with Chester County Health Department, but they have a map and you can drill down to every municipality. And I just looked today and it was corrected for Alden, it was like 160 cases.
Okay, but I still don't know how that's.
When-
collected.
Yeah, I don't, well, I don't know.
How accurate is this
Good question.
information?
I think I know. What happens is when you go and get a test and your test is positive, the testing facility is responsible to contact the county board of, county health department. And then the county health department, has your address and everything, they have to reach out to the people. Yes, okay, symptoms.
And also understand that it's not necessarily where it's been tested at, it's the address. which-
Yeah, it's all by the address. Yeah, you have to, you have to.
It could be college students that aren't in the area, it could be people that aren't actually in the area.
Kids down the shore, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's some of the Poconos that are right now in the Poconos that are.
And
They have an Alden address.
And I don't know, that was 160 per day. That was just, I think,
That's the grand total for the
Total.
whole, since March.
current.
But Mr. Stewart could be right about how accurate it is, because anyone who lives in Penn Pines has an Alden address and they swear they live here. So physically in Alden, do we have 160? Probably not. Probably a lot less than that.
Not the people who live in Penn Pine don't come to all the way.
True.
It's still a basic, like that way.
Either way, it's increasing.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll go on the highway, Mr. Maiden.
Mr. President, thank you. I will.
Okay.
Maryland Avenue, we're exploring, parking on Maryland Avenue between the swim club, and Cedar Lane. And some of the, it's bidirectional traffic in that area. There's a stop sign that leads to bidirectional traffic, trying to make that left-hand turn. In my experience, trying to make that left-hand turn on Maryland Avenue is pretty narrow. Cars are parked along the, I'll call it, if you're going from Springfield Road out towards the No Name Store on the right-hand side. There's some limitations there, so I know we're exploring some of those options, and some great feedback has been had. So we'll have more to come on that one. We want it to be not as impactful to residents in that area, or as little impact to the residents in that area as possible. But again, it is a high potential for some serious issues with that area. So I know we're looking at it, and we'll look at it a little bit closer over the course of the next couple of weeks. So we'll have some more to come. That.
Mr. Mayor, I just have one comment. So the first time I heard of this was on Monday from an email. So has there been, and from that email, it seems like there has been some complaints. I haven't heard any of those complaints. Who have the people complained?
The residents in that area spoke to me and did not wish to have their name revealed because of possible conflict with their neighbors. So I drafted the email so that all the people involved would know about it, including the chief, yourself, because you're parties, the mayor, the borough manager, the vice chair, and I got the wrong email address for the vice president, and I forgot to put Mr. Maiden on the original list, but I did forward the information to him. And I have driven through that intersection when both sides of the street have been parked. It's really tight, and I believe Upper Darby put an extra stop sign in there recently. Part of that intersection's in Upper Darby, and it's offset between California and Birchwood, and then there's Cedar Lane, which is it used to be a pathway down to the ford in the creek, which cut through for, I know our assistant, our secretary here lives on Rosewood and Hazelwood, cut through that area as a way out. And so that's the genesis of it. And the people didn't want to have their name revealed, but I drove myself, I took the pictures, and I submitted that to all the people. I heard about it over the weekend.
Okay.
So as soon as I drove it and took pictures on Monday, I sent it out to you.
Mr. President, I'd be glad to put the data report and analysis report there to say how many cars are going through.
That would be great, but even if there's only a few, if you have people parking on both sides, it's merely a single lane and it's a dual lane and you can't, the sight lines aren't very good. The chief went and looked at it the other day and he indicated that in his email.
And this evening, there was two pickup trucks. One in, Maryland Ave. Going back to the men.
That's Birchwood. That's ours, and then California on the left is Upper Darby.
So have you made any determination, or has anyone determined what?
No, it was put out there, and the chief, I asked him if it would be possible, and he went to look at it, and I think I've tried to include all, he may have just responded to me, but I think I tried to forward all that information to you, and if it hasn't been, I will be sure to go back and resend it again.
So we'll explore that area, see what that is. A little more talk.
I mean, before any information or anything is changed, I would like a little more information.
Well,
Maybe before a meeting, you know.
And-
have
and-
it discussed it.
And is that, listener may know this, is that something that needs to be then, that needs to be advertised, taken on certain times? I know we've done that. For area, Borough.
I don't believe so, but I'll defer to the solicitor.
Property.
No, on the street, there's on-street parking, and we would be eliminating one spot for parking in order to make it a better intersection for traffic to flow and for people to see at the corners when they're making turns off of all the traffic.
Okay. This came on the already in the borough ordinance. Part. Yeah. Adding by traffic, correct?
Well, I know the chief in the past of no parking areas have been expanded. I'm not aware that we've had to vote on it before, but maybe that's the case. So we'll have to investigate that. But I will ask Mr. White to go ahead and put the black box over there and let's see what kind of traffic flow there is. Wherever you can.
That way of doing your business.
Well, we'll find out what the traffic is. The chief has already taken a look at it. Mr. Maiden has taken a look at it. I've looked at it. Other people can. I said, we're not putting anything up right now. It's just a thing that came up recently and we're moving to see if we can correct the situation. Thank you. Is there any questions for the councilman? Seeing none, Public Works, Mr. Borders.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have one lateral issue that's still in process on Albert Avenue. It hasn't been completed yet. I'm waiting to hear from the contractor on the start date. We're also monitoring the grease backup situation in the General Department tonight that there is a backup over there, so we'll be addressing that quickly. And also wish to remind residents that cooking oils and grease should not be disposed of in distinct drains. So the congealed grease is a frequent source of sewer problems in our borough, i.e. the Jeffrey Road Department. There seems to be a chronic offender route. So, and it's difficult to find out the source, but I'm sure at some point we'll know. And we already spoke about earlier the storm sewer rehabilitation project at Albert and Magnolia Avenue, or grant is still in process. We're hoping to get that as soon as we can. And also a reminder that your sump pumps are to be discharged onto your lawn, not into your sewer or driveway. And especially with the freezing weather, your sump water being discharged onto the driveway and sidewalk. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Borders. Is there any questions for the council? Let me ask Mr. Durso, who hasn't had a chance to speak.
Yes, Councilor Borders, you kind of touched on it. I'm aware that's been a pretty chronic problem for years, hasn't it, with grease back up again?
That is my understanding.
Is there ever been an investigation? I recall, I'm going way back, I think there was a Chinese restaurant that they were getting. And that's been there for years, but that, I mean, why there? Is there an investigation into that?
I think it has something to do with the design of the distillery. You know, it doesn't do it any favors, but somebody's dumping an inordinate amount of grease. down there, and there's probably other stuff that's going down. Going down, you know, I haven't personally witnessed the cleaning,
Right.
so I really didn't know what they're pulling out of there. That's, the borough manager's report.
But it's just nothing, would it be industrial? I mean, like,
No, I believe that's residential.
That lateral starts on Oak and Jeffrey there. That's the
Right.
very first one. And then it runs north. So it's happening within that 20-house stretch on Oak Avenue.
right.
Not commercial, residential.
It was my understanding that, we had seen that earlier in the year, and it's been a chronic problem, as Mr. Durso said, and we were gonna camera it before we cleaned it at the next time, which apparently is gonna be coming up pretty soon. The people can't pinpoint which location it was.
And that's difficult to do. Mr. Orapollo has taken letters in the past to each household to let them know about the situation.
Right.
I think maybe it's time Councilman Borders drafts up another letter and goes door to door and gives it to the residents, and we also send one to the owners to let them know they're in the situation. Couple $1,000 every time we do that.
Mr. James.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm all for doing, recommending you do what they call a shock factor on the whole thing, i.e. the picture of taking of what it actually looks like down there, and then putting that to the commission on our website. Say, this is what happens when you get grease down there, and this is how much it costs. But now, the reason why I say shock factor is, you see on the back of it, I'm not too sure, but I don't know, on a packet of cigarettes in the UK, you know, you see what your lungs look like after you've been smoking for many years, and that's a shock factor. So by saying that shock factor, and hopefully people will read the website, and get to say, you know, this is what is causing it, this is what's costing the taxpayer, no software, however you word it. The shock factor can have some,
Let's move. Mr. Stacy.
Probably completely unlikely. Could be, but it's,
Starts from Oak and Jeffrey. That's the end of the run or the start, and it runs northward towards Providence Road. And then the houses on Providence Road also tie into it, going eastward. So nothing to
But
do
the
with.
clock is always in the section between Oak and Jeffrey and
Correct.
and Providence, you know, so
Okay,
it's those.
so I think what some people are driving is, could it be the gas station?
No.
That's how they do it.
No.
No?
Very good.
Any
Any
other
other,
light deep frying?
any other questions? All
There was
right.
a lot of baby bikes in there.
Ooh.
it's up my street when I do investigations on things, I dig down to the why, and try and get options.
All right, seeing no other questions, we move on to public safety, Councilwoman Corrigan.
Mr. President, I have the final remarks for the month of December. There were 8 calls within the borough, all resulting in a balance. Aldan Borough and put the fire on calls. Ambulance and EMS responded to 30 calls within our borough. And Mr. Garrity wants to remind everybody to water your Christmas tree. Make sure your electrical lights are in good working condition. Wood fireplaces and wood burning stoves and other types of open flame appliances and chimneys should be kept clean and serviced to for proper and safe handling. And don't let your dreams go up in smoke. Have a safe, joyful holiday.
Thank you. Isn't there a motion that you are gonna make?
Just to, Mayor suggests Councilman Corrigan, motion to approve the settlement agreement and full mutual release.
Yes.
Make that motion.
Make a motion to,
Anyone want to second that motion?
Is there a second to that? Mr. Conley. All those in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Any questions for the
What
council?
was the motion?
It's a settlement, I'll let the solicitor answer it in a legal way.
Agreement and a full mutual release for a police officer.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Seeing none, law and ordinance, Mr. Conley.
Before I leave my report, I'd like to move to adopt ordinance 526 of 2020 as advertised, chronic nuisance property.
We have a motion. Is there a second to that motion? Corrigan. All right, any discussion? We discussed this at the caucus meeting at the previous council meeting. Hearing none, I'll take the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? I'd like my vote to be registered in opposition, although I understand the need for such an ordinance. I just feel uncomfortable with the wording of it. I know the chief has indicated that he doesn't foresee any misuse of it, but as I mentioned at the previous meeting, and I know we changed some of the wording, some of the provisions to me basically sound like an eviction, which you're not allowed to do by state law, which was changed because people were using a similar ordinance for eviction years ago. I believe 2012, there was an incident, and the state legislature changed the law, but I'm still uncomfortable with it, so I would like my vote to be registered as a no. So it passes 6-1. Mr. Casey.
Yes, sir. For those of us who didn't tune into the caucus meeting, do we know what the motion was?
It's for, well, Councilwoman, would you like to address that?
Councilman. Councilman.
Oh, Councilman, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong one. Pardon me?
Today's president used to do that.
Yeah, he's sitting in the audience tonight.
I really don't want to read the whole thing.
Well, maybe you could.
Just the gist of it.
Yeah.
There's especially one property where the police have been called 180 times, over 200 times for nuisance calls, like drinking, fighting, stuff like that, and the police are spending all their time there. So we actually, the borough manager, the solicitor, Councilwoman Corrigan, and a lot of other people drafted this to try to give the police something to maybe stop all these calls. Like that,
Provide for a fine of $1,000. That's really the main key. The borough may also revoke the use and occupancy or inspection permit.
Will
But
the
there is a-
text of the ordinance be made online?
I believe it is, isn't it? Wasn't it made
Or
available?
is it advertised here?
There's a provision in there that the,
I'm just saying, not so much for
After
me, but
three-
for the town.
after 3 calls in 60 days, the chief, there's a provision for the chief to contact them and try and have a meeting with the people to resolve the situation. And also we inserted language that if he deems it necessary, that proper social services is called to try and help the situation.
But it will be, it is posted on the.
Yeah.
It's advertised and it's now part of the borough's ordinance. So eventually the ordinance itself will be up.
But I think the biggest, I was much like Dan against it, initially, the biggest. All the selling point was is that, talking about something that's deemed a nuisance call, not for domestic, not for.
Right.
It specifically says if somebody's found to be an actual victim.
Correct.
That-
Yeah.
Very good. Any other questions? Seeing none, Mr. Conley, you had a report?
Yes. During the month of November, there were 38 site visits that included items from concrete, pre-poured, final inspections for occupancy. We performed 8 transfer inspections, 6 sale re-inspections, along with 44 rental inspections. As of course, all inspections were performed with proper social distance and masks, covering nose and mouth. We've had a few cancellations with the resurgence of COVID, but not nearly as many as during the first outbreak. And there's been, the Blue Devil project on Springfield Road was enacted last month. We have not had any additional contact with the applicant, their engineer, or septic. And currently, we are using the International Code 2015 family of codes. It is important to remember that construction codes are not suggestions, but the minimum legal level of work that can provide a safe environment for current and future residents. That's the code that are expected to use.
Thank you very much. It's my understanding that the property is being cited currently because it's not in a good state. Is that correct, Mr. White?
Correct,
Okay,
every week.
all right. Any questions for the councilman? Seeing none, we'll move on to finance, Vice President Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for the report of the reserve account balances. And the general reserve is $805,093.98. The sewer reserve, $274,461.02. And the police capital reserve balance is $1,087.11. And then, Mr. President, I would like to give the presentation for the 2021 budget. And the Aldan Borough Council once again presents a balanced budget to the residents of Aldan for the year 2021. The 2021 budget calls for a general fund reserve and expense of $2,396,741.78, and a sewer reserve, a sewer fund revenue and expense of $741,191. This budget plan is approximately $1,998.78 higher than the 2020 budget. The 2021 budgeted income remains similar to the 2020 income projections, with significant variations in just two income categories. They are the budgeted cash on hand to begin the 2021 fiscal year will be approximately $268,687.46. Borough Council is able to achieve this increase by having controlled spending in the 2020 and also recognizing additional income in real estate transfer tax. In addition to this increase in available cash on hand to begin the fiscal year, Borough Council also expects to deposit part of the 2020 surplus into the general fund reserve. The general fund reserve for the borough remains healthy, exceeding the 10% best practices recommendation for municipal government general fund reserve. The 2021 real estate transfer tax income is expected to rise again as the housing market rebounds and sales of existing homes increase. When home sales, when a home sells, Pennsylvania imposes a 2% tax on the value of the sale. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania keeps 1% of that tax, and the borough and the William Penn School District each receive a distribution of 0.5%. The average home value assessment in 2020 was $91,000. The average home assessment currently is projected to be $140,000. The Aldan Police Department remains the largest expense to the general fund budget, constituting 54% of all general fund costs. In the year 2021, the total police department expense is budgeted at $1,302,922.84, and that's a decrease of $4,861.16 over the current 2020 spending. The trash budget will decrease to $190.83 per household from the $205,000 current amount due to suspension of recycling, and the sewer fees will increase to $364.58 per household. Per household due to a Del Toro rate increase. In conclusion, the Borough Council is proud to present the 2021 revenue and spending plan to our residents
Alden's tax rate continues to compare favorably to other similar local governments. The borough continues to expand and deliver quality services to our residents, with public safety remaining our highest priority. Budgeting is not simply a one-month exercise that occurs after Thanksgiving each year. Borough Council and the Borough Manager and the Borough Treasurer work year-round towards the goal of controlling taxes and delivering a high standard of services to our people. We're proud that we have met that goal for the year 2021. I refer to this one for ordinance.
Thank you, Vice President Lambert. So, I recommend the following resolution is as advertised. The resolution of Aldan Borough Council to reestablish tax rates for general purpose, refuse collection and disposal, sewer rental, or local service tax within the limits of Aldan Borough for the tax year 2021, also providing a severability clause and providing an effective date. Whereas Aldan Borough is a borough organized and operating in accordance with the Borough Code of Pennsylvania, which starts at 8 VA Consolidated Statute, Section 101, continuing. And whereas Section 1302 of the Borough Code grants the Borough Council the power to levy taxes by resolution for taxes levied at the same rate or at a rate lower than the previous fiscal year. And whereas taxes are necessary for the borough's proper management, care, and control of the township and its finances and the maintenance of peace, good government, health, and welfare of the borough and its residents. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. Borough Council hereby establishes the following tax rates. Real estate tax of 5.21 mils, or that's $0.521 per $100 of assessment on the assessed value of all real estate. Refuse collection and disposal, $190.83. Sewer rental, $364.58. Local services tax, $52. Real estate taxes, refuse collection and disposal, and sewer rentals are all subject to a penalty of 10% and attorney's fees of $150 per hour. This resolution shall be effective 5 days after passage, and the provisions of this resolution are severable, and if any section, clause, sentence, part, or provision is determined to be illegal, invalid, or unconstitutional, such determination will not affect or impair any of the remaining sections, clauses, sentences, parts, or provisions of this resolution. It is declared to be the intent of this borough that this resolution would have been adopted, even if any such illegal, invalid, or unconstitutional section, clause, sentence, part, or provision had not been included. Be enacted and resolved this 9th day.
Before you go on, could you repeat the number? It's 5.21 mils, $190 and how many cents?
83 cents.
And what was the sewer?
$364.
64. Okay, I thought you said 54. Okay, very good. Thank you. Would you like to make a motion to move the resolution? Is there a second to that motion? Thank you, Mr. Borders. Is there any discussion from the council member? Are there any questions from the audience? I would just like to follow up on what the Vice President Finance Chair said. Essentially, millage last year was 88 mils, going down to 5.21 because it was indicated the assessment that was just done by Delaware County increased the average house in Delaware in Alden from 91,000 to 140,000, and we are reducing by $14 the trash because of the recycling suspension, but we are increasing the sewer because of the Del Toro by $14. So essentially, if you had an average home of 91 in 2020, your home is reassessed to the average of 140 in 2021, you're at zero increase because the millage would keep it at the same for the real estate tax, and the decrease in the trash fee is offset by the increase in the sewer fee, so that net to residents to zero. However, the borough's assessment went up by that pretty much the same percentage, but individual households might be slightly different. My house may go up by more than the average, other people's might go down by more. So each individual person may see a slight increase or a slight decrease, or could stay the same, depending on how their assessment averages against the town as a whole. So I just want to make that clear. I'm sure there'll be a lot of confusion when people get their tax bills. It's going to look different, and they'll look at last year's and they might see a differential up or down, and that's because of the reassessment, which was beyond our control. But we made it so the average household would have a net zero for the year. And I'd like to thank the borough manager, Mr. White, the treasurer, Ms. Rankin, and the finance chair, Ms. Lambert, for their informational meetings. It was the first time I've gone through a budget for borough piece by piece, but it's been quite an interesting experience. Any other questions from the audience? Mr. Durso.
Repeat the sewer number.
The sewer number is going from 350 to 364 something. 58. Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, so the borough budget is set for next year. Any other questions for the councilwoman? Is that fine, should we report, Ms. Lambert?
Yes, I want to thank everyone. See you during this year.
Thank you very much.
I'm thankful for the information, but I'd like to take it offline and just understand what breakdown some of these items are.
Absolutely. The preliminary budget was online, and
Oh, yeah.
the current budget, there's some numbers that have changed a little bit, will be posted tomorrow. And you can pick it off of there, and I'd be happy to go over the numbers with you or Ms. Lambert. Definitely. Yeah. Very good. Unfinished business, I will just mention two items. Number one is the school district of William Penn was set to begin classes in staged areas beginning on the 16th of November, and due to the increase in COVID cases, they have stayed at all virtual at least through the beginning of 2021. And the other item that we were potentially going to work on tonight, which was the flag ordinance, the language has not been set, so that will probably be one of our number one items coming up in January, and we'll then be able to have language circulated for all the council members and the public to have comment at that time. Is there any other unfinished business? Wait, no. Anyone else? Seeing none, new business. Caucus will be held on Wednesday, January 6th, 7:30 p.m. COVID permitting at this building, the John P. McBlain Community Center. It will also be on Zoom. And the council will meet for its regular voting meeting on Wednesday, January 13th at 7:30 p.m. in this building at the moment, or possibly it will be on Zoom, but we may be all on Zoom depending on it, how it stands. Are there any privileges of the floor? Any other comments? Mr. Duffy,
Yes.
glad to have you, Charles.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's been a long meeting, so I'll try to be brief. Charles Duffy, non-resident, but I'm representing the Aldan American Legion. As you know, last month, council was very kind and considered in proclaiming the month of November as Aldan American Legion Month. And the mayor read the proclamation, and afterwards he mentioned all the members who were in attendance that night. However, I must add that there was one member who was not mentioned at that time, and I allude to Aldan Borough Councilman Harold Buddy Porters Jr., who served this country in the United States Army, and he's a veteran, and I just like to have the council pay tribute to Mr. Porter.
Thank you very much, Mr. Duffy. believe at the last meeting we had, he was not yet a member of the Legion, but he has subsequently
Well,
joined.
he's been working with the Legion Club, but they put a new roof on over there, and he was one of the first to step out and did it. And very quickly, I'd like to mention all the Christmas activities going on. I believe Mr. Procopio has chaired all the Christmas activities for about the past 22 years, including the Santa visit, the best decorated house, and of course the tree lighting ceremony. And it's nice to see a ray of light coming from that tree in dark times. So when we planted that tree back in 2007, by the way, it measured 11 feet. Now it's over 30 feet. So it's growing about a foot and a half every year.
Okay,
Thank you. The hour is late.
Thank you very much, Mr. Duffy. Appreciate it. Are there any other privileges of the floor? It was mentioned before, I'd just like to thank the boosters for that. We did have the tree lighting. We will have COVID state Santa visits, and the mailbox is up for those kids that want to send letters to Santa. And there will be a best decorated house award. And I noticed a good number of people, more than usual in the last couple of years, have been decorating since they've been at home. I'd like to wish everybody a safe, healthy Christmas, Hanukkah, and New Year. And we'll see you in 2021. Is there a motion to adjourn? Or is there a second? Amazing. All those in favor? Any opposed? No, the ayes have it. We are officially adjourned. Thank you all very much for coming. Appreciate it. Thanks.